Marla didn't look like someone fate would bother with. She lived in a weathered mobile home just off Route 19, in a town most people pass through without knowing its name. Every morning, she brewed cheap coffee in a dented tin percolator and fed her tabby cat, Ginger Snap, while humming along to the same old Patsy Cline cassette she'd played since '96. Her life was unremarkable, but it was steady, and that steadiness was something she clung to like a life raft. At 43, Marla worked two jobs: mornings at Benny's diner slinging eggs and burnt coffee to truckers, and evenings cleaning the high school where she'd once dreamed of teaching. But dreams have a way of hardening into dust when there's rent to pay, and teeth to fix, and no one else to carry the weight. It was a Wednesday when everything changed. She was on her break at the diner, seated on an overturned milk crate behind the kitchen, flipping through a gossip magazine someone had left behind. Her fingers, stained with bacon grease, paused on an article about a lottery winner from Wisconsin who'd bought a lighthouse just because she could. Marla chuckled, folding the page in half. "Imagine that, Ginger Snap," she whispered to herself later that night. "Me in a lighthouse." On a whim, and because she'd had just enough tips to spare, she bought a lottery ticket from the Shell station on her way home. Just one. She picked the numbers herself: 4, 9, 11, 23, 31, and 42nd. Her birthday. Her mama's. The year her brother left for the Navy. Numbers that meant something. She didn't even check the results the next day. It wasn't until 2 days later, when she was bagging up the garbage behind the school, that her phone buzzed with a text from Sandy, her cousin. It just read, "Call me. Now." Sandy's voice came through the phone in a kind of panicked joy. "Girl, you sitting down?" "Not exactly, I'm hauling trash. What's up?" "You won." Marla blinked. "What?" "The Powerball. Your numbers. You hit it. You hit all of it, Marla. I checked. 3 times. I even had Tommy check it. You gotta call in or whatever they do. You're rich." Marla sat down in the gravel. She didn't scream. She didn't laugh. She just looked up at the sky and whispered, "Mama, did you do this?" She didn't tell anyone else. Not right away. She didn't know how. But within a week, she was on a flight to Tallahassee to claim her prize. $92 million. After taxes, it was still enough to change everything she'd ever known. She paid off the mobile home lot, bought herself a tidy little craftsman house on the edge of town, far enough out that she could still hear crickets. She got Ginger Snap the good food, the one with the flaky tuna and real shrimp. She donated $10,000 to the local library, wrote a check for the community center, and told the diner she wouldn't be coming back, but left an envelope with enough inside to fix the roof and give the girls a raise. And yet, she still shopped at the same Piggly Wiggly, still wore the same windbreaker, still said, "Ma'am," and "Thank you kindly." People talked, of course. Rumors swirled like sugar in coffee, but Marla kept her smile small and her answers vague. The only person she told everything to was Benny, the owner of the diner. He'd been kind to her over the years, real kind, letting her take leftovers home, never cutting her hours when business slowed. And so, one night after hours, she slid into a booth across from him and said, "I want to give you something." Benny just smiled and held up a hand. "You don't owe me a damn thing, Marla." "I know, but I want to." She handed him a sealed envelope. Inside was a check for $50,000. His hands trembled when he opened it. "Jesus, Marla. Fix the place up, or take a trip, or buy yourself that damn boat you're always talking about." Benny stared at her, eyes watery. "You sure?" "I am. It ain't about the money. It's about who you are." But not everyone had Benny's heart. By the 3rd week, Marla noticed things. The way people who never gave her the time of day suddenly started showing up at her door with baked goods and stories. The way her phone buzzed with calls from cousins she hadn't heard from in years. A woman she barely remembered from high school sent her a long Facebook message about her husband's bad back and how they were really struggling. She gave where she could, but she also started to retreat. She'd always liked quiet. Now she needed it. She bought herself a locked mailbox, put up a security camera. It felt silly, even paranoid, but the money had shifted something. not just in her, but in how people saw her. And then, one morning, the front door was ajar. Gingersnap was meowing loud, low, an anxious sound Marla had never heard before. Her breath caught as she stepped inside. The sofa cushions were slashed open, cabinets left hanging, drawers pulled out and emptied onto the floor. Her jewelry box lay cracked in half, the cheap trinkets scattered. And on the wall, scrawled in thick black marker, was one word: thief. The police came quickly, thanks to the call Benny made before Marla even had a chance to dial. He'd been on his way over with a fresh peach pie when he saw the busted front door. Detective Leary was kind, but tired-looking. The kind of man who'd seen too many small-town crimes that didn't make sense. He stood in the middle of Marla's ransacked living room, scribbling in his notepad while two officers dusted for fingerprints. "No forced entry," he murmured, but they knew what they were looking for. Cash? Jewelry? Marla sat hunched on the edge of the armchair, her hands clenched tight in her lap. "I don't keep cash here, or anything expensive. Not really." "What about a safe?" She shook her head. I don't trust myself with one." The detective raised a brow. "So nothing was taken? Number just wrecked." He paused. "And the word on the wall, thief. You got any enemies, Marla?" That made her laugh, a sharp, bitter sound that caught in her throat. "I never had enough to make enemies. Not until now." They left with promises to follow up, but deep down, Marla knew what the outcome would be. Small towns like hers didn't have the tools or the manpower to chase shadows. Whoever did it had gloves, a plan, and anger that ran personal. She stayed with Sandy that night. Gingersnap curled up tight in her lap while Sandy muttered curses and made strong tea. "You think it was someone from town?" Sandy asked, flicking her cigarette out the kitchen window. "I don't know," Marla said, "but it wasn't random. They knew I wasn't home. They knew what door to try. And they wrote that word like I did something wrong." "You didn't," Sandy said firmly. "You got lucky. That's not stealing." Marla didn't answer, but the guilt still settled in her chest like smoke, thick and choking and impossible to ignore. The days that followed felt like walking through fog. She tried to fix the damage herself at first, replaced the cushions, scrubbed the writing off the wall, though a faint outline still remained, no matter how hard she cleaned. But the sense of safety was gone. She installed a new lock, then a camera system. She even bought a big dog from the shelter, an old mutt named Buster who barked at everything and slept beside her bed like a sentinel. Still, the looks in town changed. She could feel it. The way conversations paused when she walked into a store. The way old friends smiled too wide or not at all. And sometimes, just out of the corner of her eye, she'd spot someone staring from across the parking lot, phone in hand, like they were cataloging her every move. Her cousin Tommy told her to get out. "Go to Florida," he said. "Buy yourself a condo on the beach. You can't fix people like this. Jealousy eats them alive." But Marla had never run from anything in her life. Not when her mama got sick. Not when her ex walked out and left her with nothing but a stack of bills and a broken-down Chevy. She wasn't about to start now. And then, 2 weeks after the break-in, she got the letter. It came in a plain envelope. No return address. Just her name in shaky block letters. Inside was a single sheet of notebook paper, folded once. The handwriting was childlike, uneven. "Money like yours don't come clean. We see you. We know. You'll pay for what you took." There was no signature. She dropped it, backed away like it had teeth. The police took the letter but didn't promise much. "Could be a prank," Leary said, "but we'll keep an eye out." A prank. That's what they called it. But Marla started noticing things. Her garbage cans overturned in the morning. The sound of a car engine idling down the street long after midnight. Buster growling at shadows that hadn't been there before. And one night, she found a dead bird on her porch. Its wings had been clipped. Neatly. Purposefully. That night, she locked herself in her bathroom, slid down the wall, and cried until her whole body shook. because money was supposed to solve things. It was supposed to mean no more second jobs, no more heating bills she couldn't pay, no more walking home in the dark, afraid of every sound behind her. It was supposed to free her. But instead, it had made her a target. She didn't feel rich. She felt hunted. So she did something she never thought she'd do. She hired someone. He came recommended by a woman in town whose ex wouldn't leave her alone. His name was Callum, a quiet man with watchful eyes and a way of moving that didn't make noise. He wasn't a cop, but he used to be something close. "I don't want you to hurt anyone," Marla told him. "Just make it stop. Please." He nodded once. "I'll stay close. You won't see me, but I'll be there." And for a while, things calmed down. Marla started to breathe again. She took Ginger Snap for a walk in the garden she'd started. Went into town more. Smiled when Benny told her about the new grill he bought for the diner with her money. It almost felt normal. Until one morning she opened her bank app and saw a withdrawal she didn't make. Then another, then 4. By the time she reached the bank in person, her checking account was down by $200,000. The manager gave her a tight smile. "Looks like someone accessed it from a device that wasn't yours. We're investigating." Marla's voice cracked. "But I don't understand. I never told anyone my login. I never—" She stopped. There was only one person she'd trusted enough to help her set it up. Only one person who knew all her information. And suddenly, her hands were shaking. Sandy. Marla didn't want to believe it. Not Sandy. Not her cousin. Her best friend since kindergarten. They'd shared every sleepover, every heartbreak, every funeral. Sandy was the one who held her when her mama passed. The one who screamed with joy when she found out Marla had won the lottery. The one who poured her tea and said, "We'll get through this together." But now, it all looked different. The long silences when Marla mentioned money. The way Sandy always changed the subject when Marla asked about setting up a will. The time she left her phone unlocked while Sandy was in the room. The bank passwords she'd asked Sandy to help her remember because you're better with this stuff than I am. And now, $200,000. Gone. Marla sat in her car in the bank parking lot for almost an hour, hands frozen around the steering wheel, heart pounding so hard it felt like it might punch through her chest. She didn't go to the police. Not yet. Instead, she went to Callum. He was leaning against the hood of his truck when she pulled up, sipping black coffee like he'd been expecting her. "They got into my account," she said, voice hoarse. "Took 200 grand. Callum didn't flinch. "You got anyone close enough to know your passwords?" She looked away. "Yeah." "You want me to dig?" "No," she said. Then softer. "Yes, but quietly. I need to know for sure." Callum nodded. "I'll be careful." 2 days later, she had her answer. Callum handed her a manila folder and said nothing. Inside were screenshots, transaction histories, IP addresses, photos. One in particular made her knees buckle, a grainy image of Sandy sitting in a payday loan office downtown, holding a stack of cash. Callum placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "She's been moving money slowly, small transfers, nothing big enough to raise alarms, until now." Marla felt the air squeeze out of her lungs. "She told me she was behind on her car note," she whispered. "I offered to help. She said she had it covered." Callum watched her, his voice low. "I've seen people do worse for less." Marla didn't sleep that night. She sat on the porch with Buster beside her, staring out into the night. The moon was full, pale, cold. When the sun rose, she drove to Sandy's. No plan, just pain. Sandy opened the door in her bathrobe, her hair still wet. "Hey, girl, I was just about to make some coffee. You want—" Marla held up the folder. Sandy's smile fell in pieces. "What's that?" she asked, her voice already a whisper. "You know what it is." Sandy's eyes flicked down, then up. "Marla." "I trusted you," Marla said, her voice sharp, trembling. "I gave you everything. I let you into my life, into the part of it that I was scared to touch." It's not what you think, Sandy said, stepping back. I was going to put it back. Don't. Don't lie. Not to me. Not now. Tears welled in Sandy's eyes, but Marla didn't feel sympathy. She felt grief. The kind that didn't come from death, but from betrayal. I needed that money, Sandy choked. Not all of it, just some. For Jack's surgery, for the mortgage. I didn't know how to ask. So you stole it, Marla said. You looked me in the eye every day, and you lied. I didn't think you'd notice, Sandy whispered. And that broke something in Marla, that one sentence, like she was some piggy bank, like her life was now a vault for people to crack open. I would have helped you, Marla said, tears hot on her cheeks. I wanted to, but you didn't give me the chance. You made me into someone else in your mind, just the rich cousin, just a walking checkbook. Sandy said nothing. I'm pressing charges, Marla said quietly. I'm sorry, but I have to. Please, Sandy whispered. Please don't do this. We're family. You should have remembered that, Marla said, turning away. Sandy didn't follow. She didn't come after her, didn't beg again, didn't scream. She just let the door close. The next day, the sheriff served the papers. Word spread fast, and while some in town called Marla heartless, others came forward with their own stories. Sandy had borrowed from plenty, left debts unpaid, played the same game with others, just never on this scale. The betrayal hit harder than the robbery, harder than the threats or the slashed furniture. Because Marla could have lived without the money, but she didn't know how to live without trust. The house was quiet again. Too quiet. The kind of silence that used to comfort Marla but now settled over her like a fog. Not long ago it had been full of new energy. Fresh curtains, a humming dishwasher, a garden blooming with lavender and basil. Now it felt like she was floating inside it, untethered, with nothing solid to grab hold of. The lawsuit against Sandy moved fast. With the evidence Callum collected and the bank's digital trail, it was open and shut. Sandy was convicted of wire fraud and theft. She took a plea deal, which meant no prison time, just probation, restitution, and the humiliation of her name in every local newspaper. Marla didn't attend the hearing. She'd already buried that relationship in her heart. No judge could make it feel better. Still, even in the aftermath, the damage clung to her. She changed banks, closed the account, donated what was left in it to a women's shelter just outside of town. She sold the house, the one she once thought would be her forever place, and bought a smaller cottage on a hill, away from the main road, overlooking a wide stretch of empty sky. No more visitors, no more drop-ins, just space. Buster came with her, of course, and Ginger Snap, still moody and loyal and always curling up on Marla's lap whenever the silence got too loud. Callum stopped by once a week, not for protection anymore, just coffee and chess. He'd become one of the few people she could sit in silence with and not feel lonely. You know, he said one afternoon, watching her make tea. Most people would have disappeared, moved to a city, changed their name. Marla gave a half smile. I thought about it, but running doesn't fix trust, and I didn't want to be scared of people forever. He studied her for a long time. You still believe in people? Marla paused. The tea kettle whistled softly behind her. I don't know, but I still believe in myself. That's something. She took walks every evening now, not far. Just down the gravel path that curved behind her property, through the small patch of woods and back. She'd stop by the creek sometimes, let the water run over her hands, cold and alive. It helped. She also started journaling again. Something she hadn't done since she was a teenager. She wrote about everything. The fear, the fury, the absurdity of winning a life-changing fortune, only to find out how fragile people really were. One night, after a particularly long walk, she sat on the porch and started writing a letter. It wasn't addressed to anyone, just a release. But as the words flowed, she realized who it was for. To the next person who wins everything they've ever dreamed of. Don't forget who you are. Money doesn't make you powerful. It just makes you visible. It puts a target on your back and a spotlight on your heart. Some people will love you for it. Some will hate you for it. But the ones who matter, they'll show up whether you're rich, poor, or somewhere in between. Don't be afraid to draw your lines, to protect your peace. And when someone betrays you, don't let that wound become your mirror. You're not what they did. You're still you. And that's enough. She folded the page and tucked it into the back of her journal. A reminder for later, or maybe one day, for someone else. It was nearly dark when her phone buzzed. It was Benny. "Hey, sugar," he said, his voice warm. "I was just thinking, some of the girls are having a little get-together at the diner tonight. Nothing fancy. Potluck style. You ought to come by. People been asking about you." Marla hesitated, her thumb hovering over the screen. And then she smiled. "Yeah," she said, "I think I will." She pulled on her coat, grabbed a lemon pie from the fridge, and called Buster to the car. As she drove down the winding road, the sun dipped behind the hills, streaking the sky with gold and rose. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring. There might still be whispers, still scars, still shadows in the corners of her mind. But tonight, she was choosing to show up. Not as a lottery winner, not as a victim, just as Marla. And that, finally, felt like enough.